Up Rockwell is a one-week experiment to test green and complete street improvements on downtown Cleveland's Rockwell Avenue between West Roadway and East 6th Street. The project was developed, installed, and completed by graduate students from Kent State University's Cleveland Urban Design Collaborative during their spring semester urban design studio. The temporary installations included Cleveland's first cycle track, stormwater bio-filtration benches, transit waiting environments, and wind-animated public art. The intention is that lessons learned from this one-week experiment would be used to influence the design of the street in the future. What we learned from this project can help answer some specific questions that people have about the configuration of Rockwell Avenue as a complete and green street.
A complete street basically accommodates all users of all modes of transportation, of all abilities, and all ages, so that they feel safe and connected through a wide variety of different street types. A green street is a little less common, but becoming more common. And the way that we think of a green street in Cleveland and what our policy says is that it is used to capture stormwater in areas where that is important to prevent combined sewer overflows. It provides carbon reduction benefits of tree planting and greenery. It uses best practices in green construction, recycled pavement, permeable pavement, and also energy efficient lighting.
The Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District is really interested in the green part because for us, a green street incorporates landscaping but also makes the landscaping functional, and for us that's stormwater management.
Well, originally when I started talking to the students, my involvement with them was not only the law enforcement functions and the fact that they would be setting up around the United States Federal Courthouse, but I also wanted to talk to them too about CEPTED, which is crime prevention through environmental design. And basically what that is you change the flow of traffic, or a lot of times when I talk to students we talked about natural surveillance. And so if an individual or a group of people are walking by and they feel safe, then they're going to want to sit down. A lot of times when you have the green streets theory and whatnot, and the planters and the plants, you know, and the grass strips and the bicycle paths, it slows down traffic immensely.
We've looked at the city grid and it seems like that there's a lot of excess capacity here. Like there aren't as many cars as there used to be. There's a lot of pavement here. We don't have the streetcar system that we used to have. So what can we do with that excess capacity? How can we narrow the lanes up? How can we make it more bike and pedestrian friendly? There isn't a dedicated bike route through downtown. This was kind of an underutilized street, almost an alley, and it was like, it seems like a really good opportunity here to test out this idea of a cycle track. And with the temporary nature of it, we're able to test it quickly, not at a large expense. If it doesn't work, at the end of the week, the tape comes up, the paint goes away. Let's move on to another place. Let's test there.
It's time to sort of look at how we use the streets. It's not just for cars anymore. And just like in the nation where we're seeing a revival of an interest in the urban cores, people are living, they're not just coming down here to eat, but they're walking the streets. You see dogs, you see babies and baby carriages, all kinds of interesting people who haven't been down here before. So we have to look at how they're experiencing as a pedestrian. Are the routes very clear? Do they, is it easy to figure out where you're going? If you're on a bike, how do you experience downtown?
For Bike Cleveland, these are types of projects that we're really advocating for, projects that really inspire the imagination and create safe places for everybody to bike, be it from the vehicular cyclist all the way down to, the kids. Out there on Saturday you saw families out riding their bikes. You go out there on the weekday and you still saw public transit buses, RTA buses, Lake Tran buses operating perfectly fine. People arriving to work perfectly fine, but there was still a designated space for cyclists to feel safe and comfortable. So projects like Up Rockwell really spur people's imaginations, gets them thinking about what our public spaces really could be.
We wanted the project to feel like an experience in the future on a during a typical work week. What would it feel like to have the street transformed and how would it work? But we did schedule an event that we promoted, a public event, on the first Saturday of the installation week in order to draw more people in and get their feedback at one time.
When you come into the area, even on a bicycle, you realize, all right, I'm interacting with people, I'm interacting with cars, all these different activities, but you feel a lot more sort of in tune with what's happening around you. So I didn't drive by in a car, but you could just see that cars were stopping when they were supposed to and sort of looking around, and you could see that care in how they're driving to make sure that everything was in balance.
Your typical planning scenario, you have a concept, you have an open meeting, you put the concept on a poster and you put it in the front of the room and you say, what do you think?
One of the really neat things was, though, is to see it in action. Like instead of on the paper, like in the classroom, you could see the students interacting and watching people walk by. They want to talk about it. What is this? How is this happening? And you had people riding bikes. They had people sitting off East 3rd Street. It was fantastic. There's this big piece of grass, and like they had people just sitting, drinking coffee and talking and everything. And we like that from the federal side because nobody's parking around our buildings. It's awesome.
I think CUDC over the years has really been a leader in kind of pushing the envelope with pop-ups. So if you look at the bridge project they did a couple years ago, they introduced this idea of, hey, let's do an event under the Detroit Superior Bridge. Well, then what happened? Ingenuity Fest held an event there 2 or 3 years in a row, and it became what sounded as a wacky idea, upon first hearing, became a viable project. Something that someone else thought, well, hey, yeah, we can do that. They tried it first and it worked. And so I think this will be a similar thing,
One of the things that we found from this process was that 1 week is really too short. It's not enough time to really get the level of feedback that we'd want to from the public. We'd want to have at least 2 to 3 weeks for a project like this in order to have a variety of weather conditions that we can test out the installations. And a longer time period would also give us more time to get the word out and to get more people out onto the site to experience it, not just during a publicized event, but throughout their work week.
The small installation of Up Rockwell is a great inspirational story. It's been very effective in showing the community and the city what's possible. And now we really need to take that momentum and implement some permanent solutions.